Exactly 22 minutes to the top of the hour. Dawn has broken and we are here to bring you up to speed with what is happening in Kenya and beyond. And we are glad that you've chosen KBC Channel 1 as your channel of choice this morning to inform you. And speaking of information, teachers are now opposed to the 3% pay cut that was talked or spoken into by the president this weekend at a church service, talking about 3% of civil service salary to go into the housing fund. But yesterday, speaking at a local media house, the PS Charles Hinga did clarify that as of now, it is not yet mandatory. It is just voluntary, because all this has to be subjected to public participation, has to be subjected to Parliament and see the way forward as far as this contributions is concerned. So we wait to see how all this will pan out. Various stakeholders are beginning to put their contribution to this conversation. So we wait to see how the whole matter will develop. Nonetheless, we have a packed up show for you. So stick around till 10 a.m. Beautiful morning to you. Always a pleasure to have you on board. This is Good Morning Kenya. Welcome to the...
And of course, it is the 26th of April 2023. We're coming to you live from the broadcasting house here in Nairobi, Kenya. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Kenya. Good morning, world. From wherever you're watching us from, we're also live through our website at www.kbc.co.ke. My name is Ram Aguko, and as Dorina said, thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1 right here on Good Morning Kenya. We still talk about the Shakahola massacre, the cult that has taken the country by storm. Everybody's talking about it. Today we're talking about 16 more bodies that have been dug up, and this brings the total number of deaths associated with Pastor Paul Makezi's cult church in Shakahola, Kilifi at 89. What do you think about this particular conversation? Well, are Kenyans informed about beliefs in terms of religion and beliefs in terms of spirituality? What about cult and occults? These are still conversations that are still lingering in many of our minds. Well, today, let's talk about this, because that is what is making headlines today in our dailies. We shall be taking a look at our dailies in a bit. The Standard, the Daily Nation, the Star, the People Daily are the papers that we shall be taking a look at in a bit. But without further ado, I hand you over to Regina Manyara on the other side of studio. Thank you for choosing KBC Channel 1.
Well, if I may say that myself, Ram, you have, quite the energy. I like it. I just want you to do a small exercise with me, Ram. Your left hand, kindly, can you wave like the Queen? Wave.
This left hand?
Yes, please. Your left hand. Can we wave?
Yes.
Excuse me, director. We want to see Ram waving. Pluck your hair. Are you? Now, the difference between your wave on my hand and, is the fact that come the next time you're seated on that particular side, it will have some piece of jewelry.
Yeah.
You will be off the market. You will be a married man.
For those
How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling excited. The next time I'll be on set, I'll be a married person. For those who have no idea what you're talking about, I'm harusi tunayo on Saturday at Buruburu. So you're all invited. Na karibisha tukule pilao, tukule nyama choma. Hata kama mvua itanyesha, msijali. We shall have a good time. Indeed,
Regina, the groom has just invited us to his wedding.
That is our director.
Please, let's go with what the groom is saying. Tutakula chicken na pilau. I'm okay with that. Omena, congratulations ahead of your nuptials, Ram. He who finds a wife finds a good thing, and I hope that, you actually enjoy the marriage life. Congratulations once again. It's not an easy decision to make for anyone, male or female, so congratulations.
Last year as a single man.
Now you'll be married.
Woo.
So we will have how many married married people on set? Okay, that is that. Now let's speak to what has been making headlines, and we start off with more somber news. Is that the death toll at the Shakahola massacre has risen to 90. On Tuesday, after 17 more bodies were exhumed from shallow graves in the forest. 8 people were also rescued, bringing the total to 34 so far, who have been rescued, and this as the government contemplates charging the cult leader, Pastor Paul Mackenzie, with genocide or knowingly leading masses to their deaths. Speaking when he inspected the ongoing exhumation and recovery operation at Shakahola, Cabinet Secretary Interior Kithure Kindiki confirmed that an open inquiry on other religious groups in Malindi, allegedly with similar ideologies, is underway as he called on the regulations of religious institutions.
At the 800 acres expensive Shakahola ground, 17 more bodies were on Tuesday exhumed from several shallow graves, bringing the total number of confirmed deaths to 90. 8 people have so far been rescued, an operation that was met with opposition from the victims.
January mpaka mwezi wa pili mwisho ilikuwa ni watoto wote wawe wamefariki. Kuanzia mwezi wa pili mwisho mpaka mwezi wa tatu mwisho, wamama wote, the women wenye wako katika hii msitu, wawe wamefariki. Na kuanzia mwezi wa 4 mpaka wa 6 wanaume watakuwa wamefariki. Mwezi wa 8 dunia inapoisha itakuwa ambaye atakuwa amebaki ni mchungaji Mackenzie peke yake. Ndio manake most of these people unapoenda kuwa rescue wanajaribu ku resist.
They have divided them into 2 groups. There's the one group that has agreed. Now they are eating and they are responding to the first aid that is being administered. And then we have another group that is totally refusing, any kind of help, saying they are in a state of worship and they should be allowed to meet their creator.
And instead of pointing fingers, first and foremost, we must do whatever it takes and save any living among us who could be under the custody of these terrorists.
Behind me is a makeshift village known as Sidon, located inside the 800-acre piece of land allegedly belonging to Pastor Paul Mackenzie. As soon as the operation began, the believers left in a huff for fear of arrest, leaving behind their personal belongings. As he put his boots on the ground on Tuesday afternoon, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kindiki Kithure called on the DCI and ODPP to hasten investigations and charge the self-proclaimed pastor with genocide.
Since Mr. Mackenzie and his group have murdered so many Kenyans at once, men, women and children, and since Mr. Mackenzie allegedly uses religion to commit these atrocities, we must find the most punishable, the most painful punishment for Mr. Mackenzie and his group.
While appealing to Kenyans for patience, Kindiki reassured that any security apparatus found gullible over the Shakahola horror will face the law.
In view of the gravity of this matter, the widespread nature of the atrocity, the government will be announcing further far-reaching measures in the next few days. All said and done, there will be accountability. And I want to assure the people of Kenya and the world that we will do whatever it takes to get to the bottom of this matter and establish the truth.
The Interior Security Boss further disclosed of an open inquiry on a religious group based in Mombasa and called on the regulations of religious institutions to avert future incidents. Rescue operations are expected to intensify beginning tomorrow. However, mass graves such as these are yet to be exhumed, with the death toll increasing by the day. Juni Karisambele from Shakahola, Kilifi County.
Now, that particular, statement by Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki yesterday in Shakahola has elicited a lot of debate. Already a conversation that is rife. And I just want to read out to you exactly what genocide is. And genocide is termed as deliberate killing of a large number of people from a particular nation or ethnic group with the aim of destroying that nation or group. So, possible genocide. Is Paul Mackenzie guilty of genocide? Then there's also the terminology that has been used by, the president himself, that is President William Ruto there the day before yesterday, saying the activities of the embattled preacher are akin to terrorism. So, is he a genocide mastermind or a terrorist? That's a question that we're going to be putting out to you. You can get us on Twitter on KBC Channel 1. And further, we will have a special series to actually identify who is this man Mackenzie, who has led many to an early grave. We'll be keeping tabs on that, and we are open to your feedback. Now, to some more disturbing news is that a woman who stabbed to death her 2-year-old baby in Kitengela, Kajiado County, was arraigned in a Kajiado court. In a disturbing video that circulated online, desperate neighbors unsuccessfully tried to break into the house to save the child from her mother, Olivia Nasirian.
27-year-old Olivia Nasirian was arraigned before Kajiado Principal Magistrate Jane Kamu 2 days after the brutal killing of her only child. In a disturbing video which we cannot show as recorded by neighbors at Milimani Estate in Kitengela, Kajiado County, 27-year-old Olivia Nasirian is seen repeatedly stabbing her 2-year-old baby Gloria while singing. The neighbors are hard pleading with Olivia to spare the child. All this in vain.
Stop! 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 Olivia, stop!
The neighbors say Olivia Nasirian locked herself in the house and was playing with the baby before she suddenly turned violent and began breaking items in the house, which caught their attention only to witness the gruesome acts. They could not get access into the locked house. Upon being alerted by neighbors, police officers had to break into the house, but it was rather too late. Officer commanding Kitengela Police Station, David Shani, says the officers found the suspect unconscious, her teeth and clothes soaked in blood. Olivia was arrested and first taken to Kitengela Sub-County Hospital. The neighbors alleged the woman killed the baby after she parted ways with the father, but upon arrest, the woman said she killed the child because she does not love herself. Baby Gloria's remains were taken to the Kitengela Sub-County Hospital morgue. The accused will remain in police custody for the next 10 days to allow completion of investigations. The incident coming barely 2 days after a 27-year-old man killed his 25-year-old lover in an eatery in Kitengela in a suspected case of love triangle.
What I can tell those who have not come across that particular video and have not watched it, viewer discretion is advised. That was just a very bad scene, especially a mom doing that to her 2-year-old daughter. I don't know what the world has come to, but we need to get back to our senses. We're taking out so many lives of so many innocent people on account of issues that they were not party to. Life should remain as precious and priceless as it has been. Now over to politics. The bipartisan talks process by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance Coalition Party and the Kenya Kwanza Alliance have been adjourned after the parties failed to agree on the composition of the team. Speaking after hours of closed-door deliberations, the team confirmed that they had disagreed on the inclusion of Elders MP Aidan Kainan and Pokot South MP David Poksin, and the leader of the leadership team will now meet President William Ruto and Raila Odinga respectively to arrive at a decision on the inclusion of the two before the end of this week.
The 14-member committee tasked with handling issues raised by Azimio la Umoja One Kenya has hit a stalemate, consequently adjourning talks after two sides failed to agree on the composition of the team. Addressing the press in Nairobi, Co-Chair Otiende Amolo said the team had failed to agree on the inclusion of MPs Aidan Kainan and David Kosing.
The inclusion of the Honorable Aidan Kainan is a matter of bad faith because that position is known to Kenya Kwanza, it is known to everyone else who has cared to look into the matter. We are unable to come to an agreement on it. And that is why we have not told you that we are adjourning to next week or for 3 days, because we think it would be a waste of time. Either those issues are resolved and we move on, or we know they are not resolved and we do not give people false hope that there are talks going on.
We have not been able to agree on how to proceed to process those particular objections. And we've, on the part of Kenya Kwanza, agreed that we require further consultations with the principals, with the coalitions, so that we are able to move forward.
According to the Rarieda lawmaker, there are options to end the stalemate, among them stepping down of the two MPs, or either side to withdraw their objections and allow the two to continue being members of the bipartisan team.
If our appointing authority choose to withdraw any of those gentlemen on their own accord, because that can also be done. So until then, we've hit a stalemate and we've suspended these talks until such time as there might be consensus along the lines reached or the position changes.
The two co-chairs are now set to meet their party leaders over the matter before giving a progress report on Friday this week.
We'll be keeping tabs on that development in as far as matters of politics are concerned, with a conversation saying that we might actually see a return of, the demos in regard now, because those bipartisan talks seemingly are at a stalemate. But we'll be keeping tabs on that. We do not want to preempt which direction both factions or sides are going to take. Now, all vehicles impounded ferrying illicit brew or premises used to manufacture illegal liquor will now be forfeited to the state as one of the ways of dealing with the menace. This is according to Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Abdi Hassan, who says the legal drinks pose a major threat to the country and the family circle, and hence the need to fully deal with it.
As the war on the second-generation liquors kicked off, porous borders have been blamed for the influx of cheap ethanol that was being used to brew the poisonous drinks. This came as security officers in Naivasha, led by Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Abdi Hassan, nabbed illicit brew, assorted equipment and bang worth over 3 million shillings that had been packaged in several estates around the lakeside town.
Ukiangalia pombe hii haijapitia standards zozote. Ni kienyeji. Inatengenezwa kwa hali ya uchafu, hali ya afya, hali ya usafi hakuna hapa. Na sidhani kama pombe kama hii binadamu anaweza kuruhusiwa kukunywa na serikali ambaye iko katika mamlaka hivi sasa.
Other items nabbed in the sting operation were fake KRA stamps, brewing machines, packaging materials and 4 suspects. Elsewhere, police in Baringo have arrested one person believed to be the ringleader in the illicit brew business in Kabrogonya, Cabernet, Baringo County. Police also destroyed 1,000 cartons of illicit brew. According to Baringo Police Commander Julius Kiragu, the alcohol does not meet the standards set by the Kenya Bureau of Standards (KEBS).
Kama ni biashara wanafanya, wawe na barua na wakomboe nyumba ya kufanya hiyo kazi. Lakini hiyo kwamba wanaweka kwa estate, kwa nyumba za watu wengine, ni kumaanisha kuna kitu fishe pale.
We really want to ascertain what is in the ground, so that at least our people may get good drink and also they follow procedures which may not expose our minor.
Meanwhile, police in Kikuyu, Kiambu County have seized a distilling plant and recovered packages of illegal dealings of second-generation liquor in a posh house in Kanduma area. It's believed that the liquor has not been allowed by the Kenya Bureau of Standards. The business has been in operation for 3 months.
And this all in the efforts to curb the menace of second-generation brews in the county and the sub-county. As you are aware that we are also doing the RRI that has been ordered by the government, and we want to assure members of the public that we are how to make this sub-county illicit brew free.
Na vile mnajua kwamba currently tunafanya inspections. So hawa tukiangalia, hata ukiangalia area vile iko, these are residential, kwamba hatujawapatia license. Na nikiangalia hawajahitimu kupatiwa license.
Finally, the ongoing crackdown on illicit brews has turned to haunt the administrators spearheading the exercise. In Laikipia County, chiefs and assistants are now claiming that their lives are in danger after illicit brewers threatened them for allegedly destroying their livelihood.
Wakati tulifika, kitu cha kwanza tulipata hiyo ndani ya hiyo nyumba imefungwa. Tulifuja kwa sababu hakukuwa na alternative. Tulijaribu kuvuja kwa sababu tulipata ripoti iko. Na ukiangalia last week na this week so far tumepiga 15,000 liters.
You know, they say, or rather nutritionists say, you are what you eat or drink. So when I'm looking at that particular illicit brew, I'm wondering exactly what happens, you know, in our bodies once we consume such. We need to be a little bit more careful and at least choose in regard to what we are consuming. At the end of the day, the body that you have is what is making you actually be here. So how healthy or unhealthy it is actually will determine the quality of your life. Yeah. Now to the counties. The Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, has rejected the government's proposal of a 3% levy on their basic salaries to fund its affordable housing project. According to the union, the move will overburden teachers who are already feeling the heat of the economic hard times. Details of this in our county news roundup.
Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, KUPPET, now says the 3% levy proposal on their basic salaries to fund the government affordable housing project will overburden teachers across the country. Led by Deputy Secretary General Moses Nturima, the union wants the government to subject the new proposed levy to public participation before implementation.
In their payslip, the 7% has been reduced, and then there is very high taxes in regards to VAT, house rent, electricity, and even mobile banking.
Persons with disabilities from Laikipia County have benefited from toolkit donations from the National Fund for the Disabled of Kenya. 27 beneficiaries received items ranging from a hair salon kit, welding machine, knitting machine, sewing machine, and a farming toolkit.
Ile tungesema ni ya kwamba waone vile wanazitumia kwa njia ambayo inafaa, kwa sababu kuwa mlemavu sio kumaanisha uwezi kufanya kitu. Kwa hivyo hiyo vifaa tunafikiria zitawasaidia waone kama wanaweza tafuta chakula, wanaweza wengine wapate mapato.
Meanwhile, the funeral of former Kisa Ward member of County Assembly Stephen Maloba is set to be held next month after the family demanded justice. The deceased family has announced the burial date but claims the investigation was sluggish.
Nimefurahishwa sana na judiciary. Judiciary yetu Kenya hii, it has really improved. Inafanya kazi mzuri sana. Juzi vile tulikuwa na petition ya Mheshimiwa Maloba, niliona iliendesha vizuri, na tena saa hii vile hii mambo au watu wakiletwa tena, niko na uhakika tena judiciary itatupatia haki.
Elsewhere, Kirinyaga County Government has provided land set to launch an affordable housing project for low and middle income earners.
In partnership with the national government, the county government of Kirinyaga intends to put up many affordable houses which people can be able to buy in a bid to bridge the gap that is normally there between available houses and the demand.
And the Shakahola forest massacre has elicited mixed reactions from a section of Kenyans.
He is against the development of humanity. That is being against education, educating our children. That is forced teaching. Even going to hospital when people are sick. These are the ones that we are calling false teachings.
Finally, users of Kapsoit Sond Road have blocked the road over its bad state, accusing the government of making false promises year in, year out. The residents blocked the road in Cheptingting area, burned tires and held demonstrations, accusing the area leadership of turning deaf ears on the matter.
Ninasimama sahi nikiongelesha President Ruto, angalia watu wenu. Ututetee barabara, tutengenezewe njia ya Kericho Sondu Highway Road.
Now, from the counties, Kenya has made a significant progress against malaria through targeted interventions in various areas of the country. Speaking during the World Malaria Day celebrations in Nyamira County, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumencha announced a paradigm shift in malaria control measures based on preventive and promotion mechanisms. The shift will enable the government development partners and communities to embrace innovation, investment, and implement new strategies in dealing with the tropical disease.
As the world marks World Malaria Day, Kenyans still remain at risk
Despite significant strides made towards achieving zero malaria illness and deaths, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakhumicha has reaffirmed the government's commitment in the fight against malaria.
National government has distributed over 16 million mosquito nets to fight malaria. The government has as well ensured that our homes are sprayed with insecticides to fight malaria. The government has also ensured that every facility that you walk to, you at least get your anti-malaria drugs.
The CS, who was in Nyamira to mark World Malaria Day, pointed out the government's effort to empower community health volunteers through training to tackle the malaria menace at the household level.
Wakija kwa nyumba yako wanakuja na vifaa ambao wamepewa na national government. It is our plan that every 100 households will have one community health promoter.
We have to apply each and every step, each and every measure of ensuring that we institute the necessary preventive mechanism in order to prevent curative.
According to the Ministry of Health, malaria prevalence has reduced by 50% in the last decade. The proportion of outpatient visits from malaria fell from 16% in 2017 to 6% in 2022 in public healthcare facilities. And several hospitals in Western Kenya have received malaria drugs from a multinational farm to supplement government efforts.
Each hospital is going to receive a donation worth 300 to 350,000. It is our belief that this particular program will go a long way in curbing and reducing malaria in Kenya and in Africa.
The World Malaria Day is being marked under the theme Time to Deliver Zero Malaria.
Still keeping up with matters health, Kenyans seeking complex surgical procedures will now be able to procure the services locally. This is after the Kenyatta National Hospital, in collaboration with the University of Nairobi's Department of Plastic, Reconstructive and Aesthetic Surgery, established a platform to provide free training on microsurgical skills. Dr. Nangole Wanjala, senior lecturer in the Department of Surgery at the University of Nairobi, said even more Kenyan surgeons will be onboarded in the training program that will range from breast reconstruction, facial nerve paralysis reconstruction, whose treatment was previously being sourced abroad.
In a bid to ensure that all Kenyans access and receive essential quality health services without having to travel abroad, Kenyan surgeons, in collaboration with surgeons drawn from various parts of the world, have come together to share skills and provide quality health services to patients in Kenya. The experts say that the quality of healthcare services offered has improved significantly over the years.
Things are improving, so even small details in this kind of procedures that are really long can make the difference in the long run. So seeing that some small details have changed, it makes everything easier for us and happy.
The workshop that has drawn surgeons from Africa and beyond has seen patients benefit from complex surgeries that were only done outside the country.
The workshop is going to benefit the patient by ensuring that these procedures that ordinarily are not done routinely are done on this patient. Some of these procedures, sometimes the patient may have to do them outside the country, but now we are having them done here. And with the National Hospital Insurance Fund, it caters for the cost of all the surgeries, so we don't expect patients to pay anything more.
The workshop that encompasses live surgeries acts as a platform for free practical training on microsurgical skills to surgeons.
Kenyatta National Hospital, University of Nairobi is improving skills and is able to carry out procedure that probably a few years ago were not being done.
So far, a number of complex procedures have been conducted, including free flap breast reconstruction, facial nerve paralysis reconstruction, among others.
We're doing complex reconstructions, taking tissue from one part of the body to another and connecting it under a microscope to reconnecting the blood vessels under a microscope to ensure that that tissue can survive in its new site.
This is a platform for surgeons, not just in Kenya, but the entire of Africa, an opportunity to be able to exchange knowledge and skills with experts, to be able to do complex procedures rather than referring patients to other countries. Pauline Nasimiu for Channel 1 News, Nairobi.
That report by Pauline Nasimiu puts a cap on the first session of news. We take a quick breather. We'll be back with what has been happening in as far as business is concerned. Do not go away.
Searching for the love I deserve. Making good vibes, oh yeah. Show, good vibes. Save some for me. She is a good girl, and I never wanna see her cry. Her heart and mind and soul belongs to me. Sins of the Father I visited from home. Circle of people born and soul.
Next on Mpakani.
Zari. Na Burhan?
We recover 4 adult remains. 3 male and 1 female.
Waxaan rabaa inay wada dhintaan.
Wayna ka shaqeeyno qorshada weyn.
Dinami se dunkade.
Good morning. If you're tuning in, this is In the Headlines, and I'm Regina Manyara. Now we speak business. But before we speak business, let us look at what has been happening within the courts, where the High Court has given parties in a petition filed by former Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i time to file a written consent in order to have their matter withdrawn. Justice Kanye Kimondo said the parties have 7 days to have the matter withdrawn. The former Interior Cabinet Secretary had filed a petition seeking to stop the Directorate of Criminal Investigation officers and the police from arresting him over allegations that police officers raided his current residence.
While giving the directions virtually, Justice Kanye Kimondo ordered the matter be mentioned on 7th of June to confirm compliance. Matiang'i, through his lawyer Danston Omari, had filed a petition seeking to stop his arrest and prosecution, as well as conservatory orders stopping the Directorate of Criminal Investigation from summoning him in order to record a statement. In his application, he sued the DPP, DCI and the IG, and 2 young men have been charged with robbery with violence,
Newton Livoy and Brian Ocheng were charged with stealing a mobile phone worth 18,000 Kenya shillings belonging to Peter Karaoke on 23rd April 2023 in Nairobi, as well as threatening him. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina, the duo, who are not represented, however, denied the charges.
Mnaelezewa ya kwamba mnayo haki ya kuwakilishwa na wakili mtakaochagua nyinyi wenyewe, na pia mkuna haki ya kuwakilishwa na wakili wa serikali, na kesi itasikizwa mbele ya mahakama nambari 8. Itatajwa ijulikane kama mtakuwa mmepewa hizo stakabadhi tarehe 8 mwezi ujao.
Elsewhere, the Employment and Labor Court has ordered a petitioner who wants the court to order NTSA to competitively recruit competent individuals for the position of DG to appear in person so as to be examined on his affidavit. Justice Bairam Ongai of the Employment and Labor Court gave the directions after lawyers representing the NTSA and Transport CS told the court that the applicant, Edwin Odoras, to be cross-examined on his application.
So on those two young men who found themselves on the dock there for allegedly stealing a mobile phone worth 18,000 and have no legal representation, though they're entitled to have, government representation then as far as the law is concerned, might face actually, a life sentence for robbery with violence. Food for thought. To business, the government is revoking maize import licenses for millers who had sold their licenses to third parties. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says the action by the millers has frustrated and delayed importation of cheap maize that was meant to reduce the retail price of maize flour.
Millers have been given up to end of this month to show evidence of maize importation activities, or their import licenses will be revoked.
On the 30th, we'll cancel those permits where the importer has not furnished us with the information in regard to importation status or progress of what we expect from him.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mithika Linturi says any import consignment order after 30th April will conflict with the country's harvest season, disadvantaging local farmers.
Sio lazima, si hapa si lazima. Hapana. Wewe kama una na wewe kama umekosa, wewe rudisha barua yangu. Urudishe, sina problem na wewe na si lazima.
The CS has further accused a section of millers and traders for selling their import licenses to third parties, curtailing government's efforts to lower food prices.
But there has been a cartel, which we are trying to deal with here. And we will not sacrifice Kenyans because of a few individuals, greedy individuals in the country.
However, millers have faulted the government directive to sell their maize imports at 4,200 shillings per 90 kg bag, saying the landing cost of a 90 kg bag averages 4,700 shillings, and only GMO maize can be sold at the government's recommended price.
I am telling you the sourcing is the problem.
Non-GMO. I'm talking about non-GMO.
I am talking of non-GMO. Hakuna niko naye.
That is GMO.
When I put the antivat, I put the antivat on non-GMO.
Millers say the price of a 2 kg packet of maize can be lowered to 150 shillings if the landing cost of maize is reduced to $320 per ton.
I can show you right now an LC from South Africa of $17 million that one of the importers has sent to me, acquired 50,000 metric tons at $340 non-GMO maize. This is, I can show you, it is here, right?
The government has initiated maize importation talks with Mozambique. The government is also in talks with financial institutions to support importers ship in grain.
We would like to request, maybe once this crisis is over, is maybe you can set up a round table with, the banks that are serious about financing commodity markets, farmers, agricultural inputs, and so on, and we try to find a solution, because I think you can see almost everybody has had issues with finance here.
Wow. Still on matters business, the government is reviewing the national tax policy to ensure a stable investment regime that will catalyze and spur the country's economic growth. National Treasury Principal Secretary Dr. Chris Kipto says the review aims at creating a predictable environment for business and investment.
There have been concerns that the tax regime is changed severally within the same financial year, which was negatively impacting businesses that are forced to re-strategize after the changes are made. This saw President William Ruto during the AmCham summit last month promised that the government will from July this year implement a tax regime for businesses that would not change for 3 years. In line with this, the national tax policy is being reviewed to create a predictable environment for business and investment.
We have decided to prepare a national tax policy so that it provides some certainty about the taxation regime in Kenya. And that when you invest, you know you are investing in a predictable environment where taxes don't change all the time.
On the issue of public debt, Dr. Kipto says the National Treasury has drafted the Debt Anchor Bill, which seeks to replace the debt ceiling framework in order to alleviate the need to keep going to Parliament to adjust the debt ceiling.
We keep going to Parliament to ask for changing of the ceiling. And the ceiling is a nominal ceiling. It doesn't have much meaning. You want one that shows the current capacity of the economy to take more debt, which is why we are moving to debt anchor. So again, that bill is in Parliament.
He was speaking in Nairobi during the groundbreaking ceremony for the Institute of Certified Secretaries Training Facility, where the certified secretaries profession was hailed for evolving from traditional compliance to focus on governance advisory services in line with the changing trends.
So we want to focus more on revenue-raising measures by pushing more on compliance and broadening the tax base. On the expenditure side, we want to see how to improve quality of expenditure and remove wastage where possible, so that we have an efficient way of using our resources.
The more people we are able to train as an institute, the more members we are able to train as an institute. That means the knowledge. There's a circulation of knowledge on good corporate governance, and that will translate to better governance generally for us as a country, both in the private sector and in the public sector.
Kenya and the United States have agreed to increase bilateral engagements in various fields that will see the creation of 1 million jobs in the next 5 years. The two nations that are currently in talks to craft a strategic trade and investment partnership have agreed to partner in agriculture, health, transport and security sectors to enhance bilateral ties. Washington has committed to help the Kenya Defense Forces upgrade its counter-terrorism measures to deal with violent extremist organizations in the Horn of Africa.
Kenya and the United States have upped their negotiations ante in a bid to strike a strategic trade deal, which Washington says will be used as a model for future agreements with Africa.
We also, of course, talked about trade and investment. And, I think many of us have a view of leading with trade and investment, with job creation, good job creation with benefits and a steady paycheck is the way to ultimately keep people from the hands of extremism. And, if you don't have a good job and you don't know how to feed your family, sometimes it's pretty attractive to be brought into something that is not in, Kenya's best interest or, frankly, the Horn of Africa's best interest or the United States.
The team got to business agreeing to deepen cooperation in agriculture and security, among other areas, to enhance trade.
Now we're moving into another phase, and today we have agreed with the U.S. Chamber on a new acronym or a new tagline for the next phase of this engagement, which we are calling from P to P. That is from preaching to practice.
Trade Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria said Kenya will give American companies preferential treatment in agro-processing, aviation, security and health sectors. On the other hand, Washington will loosen its strict regulations to allow more Kenyan companies access the American markets. The United States has agreed to extend a 5-year security cooperation plan to enhance Kenya's capabilities to counter violent extremists in the Horn of Africa.
But we also spent quite a bit of time talking about what's occurring in Sudan, which is a humanitarian crisis, and Kenya's role in trying to really help settle that dispute along with the United States and many other countries.
The two sides have also agreed to partner against cyber threats and convene a second US-Kenya cyber and digital dialogue.
But now, over the next 8 weeks, because we are in that phase in Kenya where we have a window for actually implementing the things we agreed, whether it's on digital tax, whether it is on ownership around ICT, and all the other policy arrangements, that now the rubber has to meet the road.
To sports, Western Region emerged the champions of this year's special secondary school games, which ended yesterday at the Dagoretti High School in Nairobi. Nyanza Region finished second ahead of Rift Valley Region in handball. Western Region claimed top spot in the hearing impaired category, followed by Nyanza and Rift Valley. Central Region won the physically impaired category ahead of Western and Rift Valley regions. In the visually impaired category, Rift Valley Region emerged tops ahead of Nyanza and Central Regions. The fourth day of the tournament brought together players with special needs from 8 regions across the country. Si nini yangu inakataa kuingia. Now, if you're a soccer fan, you know why today you have to be watching football, so to speak. Arsenal, those who claim that are on top of the League and they're going to be carrying away this particular cup, and as far as the EPL is concerned, are going to be playing. Check out further details on our website at kbc.co.ke. I'm Regina Manyara. I hand you over to my colleagues to take you through the rest of the broadcast. Thank you very much for your feedback. Let's meet here at least tonight for Prime Edition. Have a great day.
Right, we just get right into what the dailies are holding for you this Wednesday morning on the front page of the Daily Nation. That's what I start you off with. The flag there, Ruto, Raila talks, flop as MPs feud. That is what the Daily Nation has for you. This is in regards to that bipartisan talks. And it looks like a matter of making one step forward, 2 back, 2 steps forward, 4 back. That has just been the circumstances between these two major factions or coalitions, I shall say. And now where it has reached is actually turning out that the matters need to be escalated to the 2 co-chairs, that is Murungara, the Tharaka Nithi Senator, and also Otiende Amolo, who's a Rieda Member of Parliament, who are the 2 main co-chairs in this 14-member team. And if that does not resolve the matter, then it's just going to be escalated to the 2 principals, that is Raila Odinga and President Dr. Ruto. But what has remained the major issue of contention and as to why now there's a stalemate in this bipartisan talks is the issue of the 2 MPs, the Pokot South Member of Parliament, that is Mheshimiwa Kosing, and also Edan Keinan, who is the Eldas MP. The biggest issue is that both of these 2 coalitions want both of these members to be dropped. Kenya Kwanza wanting Mheshimiwa Kosing to be dropped from this 7-member team, and Azimio wanting Keinan to be dropped, saying that he's a member of Jubilee Party. Jubilee is still within Azimio, and according to the Rieda MP, that is Otiende Amolo, he says that according to the Register of Political Parties and Ritu, these 2 parties are still within the larger faction, given the fact that they have not deposited any agreement with the Register of Political Parties, that is the post-election agreement, to see any defections. So because of that, they are still within the Azimio coalition. But Kenya Kwanza saying that KUP already moved to Kenya Kwanza, that is where Pokot South MP is from, that particular party, saying that the party leader, who's the former Turkana governor, Lonyangapuo, already shifted camp, and so because of that, then he's on the other side. So some of these issues have been causing a stalemate in this bipartisan talks. And also, the other thing that has also caused quite the stalemate there is the agreement on whether these conversations need to just still be within Parliament, confined in Parliament, or be extra parliamentary and involve other stakeholders. That has also become an issue of concern. You remember Azimio said that they wanted them to be extra parliamentary, so to also involve various stakeholders, different institutions, but then Kenya Kwanza still insisting that the best way to solve this matter is in Parliament. In fact, the National Assembly Speaker, Moses Wetangula, says that the Parliament is the best way to resolve the matter. So we wait to see how all this will unpack, will unfold, if it will continue at the end of the day, how they will resolve the stalemate, and just what this will portend as far as these issues that Azimio raised are anything to go by. And this also is the reason that's why we are seeing this bipartisan conversations or bipartisan talks. Away from that, teachers now say no to pay cut for the proposed housing fund. This is a 3% that was proposed by the president over the weekend, and it has caused quite the conversation there with regards to this 3%. Remember, also what the president said is that for civil servant, that's at least where they're going to begin with these contributions. For every 3% that you contribute from your gross, the government will match that. So 3% from your gross, and the government matches that with another 3%. But that has caused quite the conversation there, and also teachers saying no to this. Why are they saying no? What really has become the biggest bone of contention as far as this housing fund is concerned, given that this is one of the key 5 pillars of this regime? We'll look at that after this break and also expand more on what the other various dailies have for you. So stick around for more of that coming in a short while.
Kukamilisha mwezi mtukufu wa Ramadhani, basi faalaika, ni juu yako ndugu yangu kufunga siku 6 katika Shawwal. Sawa sawa umefunga siku 6 katika 10 la kwanza katika Shawwal, au 10 la pili katika Shawwal ukafunga siku 6, au ukafunga siku 6 katika 10 la mwisho katika Shawwal.
Inshallah, ningependa Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala atuwezeshe kutekeleza ibada hii, funga ya 6 Shawwal, ili tuweze kupata ujira ambao unatokana na kufuatiliza 6 Shawwal na funga ya mwezi mtukufu wa Ramadhani.
I'll pay for what my father owes you, and in exchange, you'll give me the real report, the complete one, regarding the past of Malena.
Fine. That sounds fair. I'll see what I can do.
So when are you going to give it to me?
I really don't want to hurt you by doing this. Corina, I would rather sacrifice my feelings for you.
Please don't leave me.
Amparo never wanted to get married with that guy Reynaldo. And I understand that you don't want my son Ruben for your daughter. But how could you force Amparo to marry a man she doesn't even love? How could you convince her to accept all of these things?
I'm not going to waste much of your time. I just came over so you could explain to me just how and when you decided to marry me, Fabiola.
He didn't say why. They haven't gotten back to us. But he made it clear that she won't be doing the interview. And he also said that they would never do an interview with us.
You said to me the first time you came to my office.
Please allow me to take the reins. I hope no matter what, you'll be on my side.
And no matter what, you'll support me. Jenny.
I know I can't help you very much when anything bad happens. With my limited knowledge and experience, all I can do is make some phone calls and search some information.
Sorry, Hansen. I just need some alone time and space to think about things. I'm leaving.
Welcome back to the program. We definitely appreciate your valid company. We continue with what the dailies are holding for you, and I can tell you for sure the conversation about this affordable housing was just heated in studio as much as how it's heated out there, and the different questions that Kenyans are raising about this affordable housing. But basically what is also coming out and what the Daily Nation has captured for you is that KBC, one of those teachers union, is now opposed to this 3%, and there are quite a number of concerns with this affordable housing. And Ram, I'm so sure even the dailies that you have, the Standard, the Star, has also captured this affordable housing an issue. You know, affordable housing was one of those key areas of the previous dispensation in the 4 agendas, and also this regime in the 5 pillars. It is also featuring very heavily. You have also seen the president going around launching housing projects. Began in Kibra, Langata, Shauri Moyo here in Nairobi, Mavoko, Homa Bay, different areas, and the proposal is that to construct 1 million houses by 2027, 100,000 units by the end of this year. Now we're looking at a possible 3% of your salary, of your salary, Ram. Whatever your salary is, 3% of it, if actually it becomes law, because right now it's just a proposal, but if it happens that it's subjected to public participation, as how the law dictates, because if you have to change anything in the law, then public participation has to be heavily involved. So if that happens, and then it goes before Parliament, and Parliament amends that Article 43 that states, as far as housing is concerned, it's voluntary for contribution, and amends it, and now it becomes mandatory, then we are saying 3% of your gross. I feel like you're already making the math. You're wondering what will remain with.
And there was a question that was being raised at some point. Now, doing the mathematics here, averagely, a civil servant earns around, give or take, 40,000 shillings.
On average.
On average.
On average.
40,000 shillings.
Yes.
Now, from this 40,000 shillings, by the time that this particular civil servant or employee retires, they, assuming now that we're saving, we're looking at them saving up to, averagely, if you do the mathematics, around 500,000 Kenya shillings. Yeah. By the time you retire. With
so that's by age, what, 60 or 50? Somewhere there.
Yeah, somewhere there. So with 500,000 shillings worth of savings, will you manage to build a home? How much will you pay for labor?
Even before building, will you manage to buy land?
Buy land. All right.
In Nairobi, land is above that already.
Yeah. And for the record, forget about land.
Just
assuming
a home.
Assuming that by the grace of God, because all things are possible, assuming that, how much does it cost to lay the foundation of this particular house? Assuming by the grace of God you have your piece of land, how much does it cost to lay the foundation?
So what are you saying? 3% is good?
No.
What are you saying?
It doesn't add up. In other words, the math is not mathing.
The math is not mathing.
The cost of laying a foundation for a house is more than 500,000. If somebody watching today, you've gone through building, you know how much it costs laying the foundation itself.
You've even gone far in terms of the cost of laying foundation, because for starters, unless you're buying an already completed, constructed house, you first need to get that land. After getting the land, there are all these fees and payments that you make. So this is even before foundation, because you have to actually make all these payments, the fees either to the counties, to NEMA, NCA is also coming on board. Yes. Before you even start the foundation.
All those, you see, all of this, assuming that by the grace of God you've managed to do it.
Also now you're on foundation.
Still, it is impossible. Assuming you've managed to, by the grace of God, to have your piece of land, maybe someone gave it to you as a gift.
But then that's what the government is saying.
And you've managed to pay all these bills, it is still not possible for this 3% to work. It doesn't add up. It means that there is something that the government needs to look into for this particular project to be successful. But it won't work.
This 3% basically, and also just going by what the PS was saying yesterday, that is Charles Hinga, the PS State Department of Housing, is that when you contribute this amount, and assuming that the raft of Kenyans, especially those from civil services, that's the bracket they will begin with, the 3 million or 3.5 million, as you contribute, the government matches that amount. So 3% of your salary, whatever your salary is, 3% of that goes into this fund. Then the government matches that. Then collective amount is what they begin by the first phase of construction of these houses.
Now.
Then they begin giving to Kenyans bit by bit on a county-to-county level, because the previous dispensation, what came out as a challenge, that this was being done only in Nairobi. What about other counties?
Now, the challenge that I'm seeing, Doreen, is after how many years will I be able to own this particular house?
That's also the question being asked by Kenyans.
Also, is it actually mine? Is it actually...
I think we should have this discussion and get clarification, because there's so many questions. Because again, so the other issue was that, why is it being raised to 3%? The previous dispensation, it was 1.5% is what you contribute to this fund. Then the state matches with 1.5%. So what really has informed the increase from 1.5% to 3%? And again, the other question, as you ask, how long will it take you to own this unit or this house? And in the event that you as a Kenyan in civil service or even otherwise, you already have your own house, you already constructed your own, do you really need to be in this plan?
All right. Even so, in addition to those questions, other questions that we can even add to this particular conversation, what if I do not want to stay in this particular area?
You sell it?
What if I want to actually retire and go home in my home county of Kisumu?
Yes.
What happens?
And perhaps the one you're given is in Nairobi.
Yeah, and this is in Nairobi. What will I do with that particular house?
Charles Hinga said up to 7 years. That's the time. If you happen to get this unit, you will have 7 years to sell it off. So you can't sell it off up until after 7 years. But as I say, these are things that we need to have conversation on and get clarification, because the kind of uproar it has caused, and this is also coming at a time where Kenyans feel already taxed enough. But again, they say it's not tax, it is just savings. Because also part of what is coming out is that in the event that you actually save up, you contribute to this fund, and you do not want to own a house, you can actually go and take your money back. But the procedures and protocols of taking this money back...
Have you ever tried getting your deposit from your landlord?
So
Kenyans, have you tried taking back your deposit?
So there's a lot of questions about this 3% housing levy.
Yes.
So yes, you can take your money back, but do we have a board? Do we have a management? Is there a situation? There's just a lot of questions as far as this 3% is concerned. But remember, it is not yet mandatory. It is still a proposal. And in the event it has to be mandatory, it's good for us to clarify this, it has to actually be subjected to public participation.
Yes.
So as a Kenyan, you have to participate and say whether or not you think it is fit for this to happen. And this also, aside from public participation, it has to go before Parliament. And Parliament have to profile these questions, query, and see how formidable this is going to be before it's actually put into law. Because what we have in Article 43 of the Constitution in terms of housing, it is voluntary for you to contribute to the housing fund in the event that you want the state to provide a house for you. So it is not yet mandatory. It's just still a proposal, and there's still, conversations around this matter, people getting their, adding their contributions to this matter. So it is not yet mandatory. That's very important to clarify.
It hasn't been passed.
Yes.
Even so, concerning what you said, I still ask the question. Yes, you've said that you can get your money back, but I would compare that to you trying to get your money, your deposit from your landlord. I'm still trying after I don't know how many years to get back my deposit after 2 years.
Build your own house.
I should build my own house.
No one will question.
I pray that the parliament will look into this particular matter and that there will be public participation because we need to get our own homes. We need our own houses.
All right, Rob, what does the Star have for us before we go deeper into the Daily Nation and the People Daily?
Of course, on the front page of the Star newspaper, thank you, Doreen, for that. And of course, here we are looking at varsity entry exam proposal sparks debate. That's on the front page of the Star. Varsity entry exam proposal sparks debate. And of course, here in this particular paper, it would be double testing KCSE, which tests a number of subjects, and a more specific university test on the field of interest. Meaning, you need to take two tests, your KCSE and another examination in regards to the field of interest that you're in. So, because of allegations of widespread cheating, this is a conversation that we're having. And of course, just to get a glimpse of this particular story here, MP's varsity entry exams bid sparks cheating debate, where the lawmakers are considering a proposal by the examination experts for university entry examinations to curb cheating on KCSE exams. Now, it will be double testing. KCSE, which tests for, of course, a number of subjects, and a more specific university test in the field that you are interested in pursuing. Now, a consortium of experts wants the National Assembly Education Committee to consider making the entrance test a requirement of the law. Now, this is because of allegations of widespread cheating. The Kenya University's Quality Assurance Network members made the plea to the Tinderet Member of Parliament, that is Julius Meli-led team, in an ongoing inquiry. And according to this particular conversation here, we are looking into what they want. They want the committee which is probing the alleged cheating in the 2022 KCSE exams to recommend that the tests should be taken for high school leavers. This sparked in a lot of debate, and of course comparing different countries and how they do it. In Australia and in the United States, independent bodies are used for placement of students to universities. What about in the country here in Kenya? Should we look into that? In India, universities offer admissions to various programs through the Common University Entrance Tests. In India, they have the Common University Entrance Test introduced. This was in 2021 that they started introducing that. But of course, prior to this particular test, seats in the top universities such as Delhi University and others, including Jamia Milli Islamia, were offered on the basis of merit. In China has a standardized college entrance exam conducted annually, probably known as Gaokao. Korea conducts college scholastic ability tests every 1 year. So this debate is what's ongoing in Parliament. Experts presented a bid for varsity exams to National Assembly Education Committee. Should our children take two tests before joining university?
That was actually a conversation, especially after the last released KCSE results and the concern of cheating. Remember when we had some specific counties having candidates, or specific counties having schools that really topped the list?
Yeah.
Over time, we really hadn't quite had that like specifically, was it in Nyamira or Kisii County?
That was Nyamira.
Nyamira County.
There's this school, Victor knows that name.
The name of the school, I think, is called there. Victor. Yeah. Victor is away. But there had been those concerns that then, do we need to also have entry-level exams? In fact, that's how they were calling it, entry-level exams. And to some extent, going by what the idea looked like, is that then you'd have some students getting even that A grade and going to do medicine, but 3 or 4 years down the line, they really can't get the grasp of what is that. So then the entry-level exam basically is that you doing something very not so difficult, a bit easy with regards to the course you want to do. So say you want to do journalism, you'll be given a bit of tips to just do in regards to that. So as opposed to going to higher level or higher learning with your B grade or your A grade or your C+ grade, there's something extra you do in regards to that. So the moment it becomes blue again, it means that you won't just be sitting in a first year's class with your KCSE certificate, but with your KCSE certificate and an entry-level certificate to actually show and ascertain you're well qualified for course X.
Exactly.
Because you realize also that we have some students who would do a certain course and after 3 years they feel engineering is not my thing.
I'm looking at a course like medicine. Someone wants to take the Bachelor's of Science in medicine and they got a straight A, but through cheating.
That's why the entry-level exam is important.
So if you got your A, your grade A, and you've been selected for a course in medicine, aren't you going to play with Kenyans' lives? You need to take another test. But of course, I'm also looking at it from another angle here. Assuming that a student actually got their test validly, they read for their KCSE and they passed validly. Once they choose to take a course in medicine, for example, and you give them a certain test as a prerequisite to joining university, what if they fail that test? Won't it discourage them?
Good question. And then what happens? Do you continue with the course? Do you do whatever it is that you wanted to do, yet you validly got the A?
The A.
That's the Parliament has to really look into that.
But of course, still, it is a valid concern about examination cheating. That is a very valid concern that Kenyans we really need to consider. Even as we look into this particular matter, you can give in your thoughts in regards to this. Should our children take 2 tests, the KCSE and before joining university, the prerequisite? Entry-level exam. I remember before transferring from one school to another, you would take a test, even as you transfer from one school to another.
To show if you're eligible for this school that you want to go.
Yes.
Okay, that's in the precept of Parliament.
Yes.
Anyway. But also, Ram, I feel like it's also time we can really discuss about this issue because the dailies have also covered it. In fact, today's Wednesday. So since Monday, this story has been on the front page of each and every daily.
Including the Standard here.
Yes, media houses have been covering it. We have seen various government agencies down in Kilifi. Just yesterday, the Interior CS Kithure Kindiki made his way there. The DCI is there, the DPP, Haki Africa. We are seeing really quite a number of various agencies and stakeholders in Kilifi because of this Good News International Church matter. And the numbers have also been increasing on a daily basis. Now we're at what, 89? 89?
Not 90 there.
90 bodies discovered. But there's something that People Daily has covered for us in regards to the doctrine of this particular church. And I was reading it and I was like, this is amazing in a negative way. Because when you look at some of the things that, let me just actually read it. One of those things that this particular ministry was proffering was that education has no place for God. Thou shalt not go to hospital. If you fast without food and water and die, you will directly meet God. Just like that. Huduma number is the biblical mark of the beast, which symbolizes opposition of God. Science and technology is witchcraft. Children should not be exposed to TV cartoon because they are evil. And what really conflicted my thoughts was siblings should intermarry to foster family lineage. These are some of the doctrines that informed this ministry.
I believe that...
Hey, these ones are heavy.
Yeah.
These ones are really quite heavy.
The problem that I was looking at the IG, and the IG was asking a very good question.
Japheth Kome?
Yes. He asked, how can someone tell you not to eat?
And they are eating.
And they are eating. Now, the question is valid, but in my own perspective, this is my belief, my opinion.
Yeah. This is you saying
this
as
is
Ram
Aguko speaking.
Not as KBC as you.
Not as KBC. I believe that the IG was asking a question with the understanding of a human being, but now we are looking at it from we need to change how we look at it, and it should be looked at from the understanding of a spiritual perspective. Remember, even the Bible says this, that flesh and blood cannot understand spiritual matters. So here, in this conversation, it's not about logics. Remove logic out of it. It's about spirituality and spiritualism. It's about Jesus Christ's name being used. Meaning, our understanding needs to be based on the spiritual perspective. That's why we're talking about faith. Here we are talking about faith, not logics. So these followers believe that they can meet Christ. Okay, let's say the points here. Number one, the Bible says, my people suffer for lack of knowledge. If we do not have knowledge about the true word of God, we will end up killing each other and even killing ourselves. Because the Bible has clearly indicated that for the enemy came to steal, kill, and destroy. John chapter 10, verse 10. The enemy came to steal, kill, and destroy. Once you look at these particular issues here, there are many things that are being stolen, many things are being killed, many things are being destroyed.
Lives also being lost.
But if you read the Bible in John 10:10, the Bible says, but Jesus Christ came to give life and life in abundance. When we look at this church, Good News International, is it giving life and life in abundance? No, it is not. Now, if someone tells you to fast and die because you are poor, that the poor should, that's what he was teaching them. The poor should fast and die to meet Jesus, and the rich should keep on eating and thrive. If Jesus Christ came, you believe in Jesus. If you believe in Jesus, he already died for you. Therefore, he has come to give you life, and that's why it's called eternal life through salvation.
Life and life in abundance.
Life in abundance. So you do not need to kill yourself to meet him. Actually, you do not need to meet Jesus. He already stays in us. The Bible says he's Emmanuel.
He's actually here.
He's here. Emmanuel, God with us. So I do not need to kill myself to meet Christ who is in me. How can I meet somebody that I already have?
This is Church 101, I'm telling you.
Come on, somebody tell me, give me an amen.
Hallelujah.
How can I meet somebody that I already have? You see, the problem is...
I hear you, Ram.
When Jesus Christ was being tempted, you remember the times he was tempted? Three times.
Yes.
Number one, the devil told him that he should exercise his power, that turn the stones to bread. Jesus Christ did not need to prove that he is powerful through turning the stones. So he chose not to, because he knew that he was as powerful as that. But now the devil did one thing, and this is what these followers of Mackenzie need to understand. That when the devil told him, if you worship me, I will give you all these things. Christ did not need to do that because he is the owner of everything. So if someone tells you that you need to meet with Christ, you do not need to do that because Christ has already met you.
I think Good News should get a new pastor because can impart some bit of knowledge. Good knowledge.
My people suffer for lack. I look at these stories, people don't understand the word of God, and that's why we see preachers outside here
capitalizing on that.
Yeah, they are masquerading as men of God. I saw another man who was being carried because he claims to be, I don't know, a prophet. We need to understand that the word of God is crystal clear. You do not need to exalt a human being because God has used them. They're just pieces of vessels.
So then does that bring that issue of regulating?
No.
Of these churches?
What are you regulating? Are you regulating religion or spirituality?
Because I remember Professor Githu Muigai then had brought this matter of church regulations, but the reason why it did not go beyond a conversation was because the issue that at that time was, so then which religion, as you say, would you use to regulate? Would you use Protestant with their doctrine and what they believe in to regulate? Would you use Catholics? Would you use SDAs? Which one specifically would you use? And that's why even what Parliament passed is that let churches self-regulate. So whatever church you go to, if it's Catholic, let there be rules and procedures and on how things are done. If it's Protestant, you do your thing as per how you do it, but in the correct way. Not that there will be an umbrella regulation of how things need to be done in the church. So let there be self-regulation.
So how can I regulate my own church if I am the owner?
So then that again was the issue.
Yeah.
Because how do you self-regulate?
How do I self-regulate? Because
if it's all on you.
Yeah.
Because right now the conversation round has been, given what has been happening, then now they're calling for the reintroduction of this conversation. Let's regulate. Because Rwanda is the first country in the East African continent which has done that. They have regulated their churches. And so then we are looking at Kenya and saying that going by what we are covering and what we are hearing based on what is happening in Kilifi, should we go that direction? But which benchmark will we use?
I believe that.
And also the other thing that is coming out, and I'm so sorry to cut you short, is because as you rightfully so, and you really brought forth very quite good questions there as far as spirituality is concerned, Ram. But again, when you look at the other side, where was the law in this? Where was the judiciary? All these things were happening since 2017, 16, 15, under whose watch? You mean there was no leadership, MCAs, MP, local chiefs, where all this was happening under their nose? Yes, he has been in and out of court. In and out of court after posting bail, released, but people are still losing their lives. In fact, even as we speak, they're still exhuming more bodies. We don't even know how many it will reach. As of yesterday, it was 90 bodies. As of what, day 4? So this is still ongoing, it is still continuing. And what is sad is even that some who have managed, who have been saved, I should say, they're still refusing to eat. They're still refusing to go to hospital. So you can imagine how much this doctrine, how much they have been indoctrinated with this religion, with this doctrine.
The problem we have here, Doreen, is that there are so many things, bundled up together. Into one. It's a cobweb. We need to segregate issues
and handle it issue per issue.
Yes, one thing at a time. The security agencies, yes. In my belief, I was following up this story and I realized that at some point some concerns were raised in the area for the Nyumbakumbi people when these followers who initially, remember, they trickled in many years ago and they brought in so many businesses within the area, especially for border operators, because now they were being transported from that particular from the town to the location,
to the forest,
where they were, to that forest in Shakahola. They needed to be transported through border, and because of the masses, it brought in a lot of business in this area. So they became known. And nobody had any problem with it until this movement started being restricted and they started fasting. As they started fasting, the followers of Pastor Mackenzie would restrict movement within the area, and anybody who comes within that vicinity would get beaten up or something. I remember there was a story of a border who was actually beaten by one of these followers. Nyumbakumbi got this red alert. They went there, and of course I know that this is how now they started discovering it. But now the question still is there. How long did it take for the security agencies to discover it? They took quite a long time, and of course that's another conversation.
Altogether, that's true.
Altogether. But now, if these followers, if you look at them clearly, it's about victimization. And trust you me, spiritual matters are about victimization. If you feel convicted, it's about being convicted. If you are convicted that if I fast for this period of time I will meet Jesus Christ, I will do it because I have that conviction. And that's why they cannot, some of them cannot even accept to be removed because they're convicted.
I feel like perhaps we need to expand a bit on this and also just inform Kenyans what really is developing and what is happening. But before we continue that, because again, also you realize every daily has covered it based on the different reports they have gathered and new developments in regards to this story. So we take a very quick breather. We circle back looking at what the Daily Nation, the Star, the Standard has for you with regards to this story and what more is developing as far as this shakahola horror is concerned. Time for that breather. Don't go anywhere.
Next on Mpakani.
Zari. Naburan?
We recover 4 adult remains. 3 male and 1 female.
Waharaba ini wada dintan.
Waina kashake no korshada wain. Nome se dunkade.
Journey to the ends of the earth. Searching for the love I deserve.
Making good vibes, oh yeah. Show, good vibes. Save some for me.
She is a good girl, and I never wanna see her cry. Her heart and mind and soul belongs to me.
Sins of the Father I visited from home.
Michuano ya kombe la Moza Bet itaingia awamu ya robo finali tarehe 29 Aprili mwaka 2023. Wanabururi Tusker FC watamenyana na KCB kuanzia saa 7 mchana Jumamosi tarehe 29, kabla ya mabingwa wa ligi kuu mwaka 2009 Sofapaka kuchuana na Ulinzi Stars saa 9 jioni katika uwanja wa Police Sacco jijini Nairobi. Michuano hiyo itaonyeshwa mbashara kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1. Ni nani atavishwa ubingwa wa kombe la Moza Bet na kunyakua tiketi ya kuwakilisha Kenya kwenye kombe la shirikisho barani Afrika? KBC Channel 1, mwenzio wa dhati michezoni.
Welcome back. Don't worry, that
was a twin.
That happens. That packs. All right. Don't worry about that. Just the packs of live TV. Don't worry when you see me twice.
Yeah. But then it looks like your other sister.
Don't worry, the perks of live TV. Nonetheless, Ram, we want to move to something different because the dailies really have quite the stories today. But we really wanted to finish on this shakahola matters and what is happening in this forest. And as we rightfully say, there's multifaceted issues into this one matter, looking at the legal aspect, the spiritual matters. But again, largely, even as we stick on that spiritual issue, there's been concern on to what end can someone just really take a toll on your psychology and indoctrinate you to that extent? Because you remember that oftentimes you would say, especially when it comes to matters of religion, and you look at the extent that it has gone, would keep saying that those in the lower cadre in society, the poor. In fact, Martin Luther King once said that religion is an opium of the poor, and you'd really good number of times expect this kind of incidences to be emanating from such. But we are reporting cases of lawyers, cabin crew, people selling their parcels of land and taking it to the pastor. In fact, that specific story of this air hostess who sold 7 million worth of land.
Let me tell you something, Doreen.
So you realize this person was not poor.
We are talking about hope.
That's the biggest issue.
The issue is hope. The Bible describes Jesus Christ as somebody who was coming to bring hope to a dying world, to bring salvation to a dying world, to reconcile human beings with God. If you look at hope, hope cuts across poverty and riches, because everybody needs something to cling on.
It does not matter where you are in society.
Regardless of your status, you need hope. You need something that can make you feel like you are looking forward to another day.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the teachings of Pastor Mackenzie, they come
with hope?
Poison. It's poison,
yes,
but coated with hope. Coated with hope. And if you look at their teachings, they live in a world of fear. They believe that if they do not starve themselves to death, they will not beat Jesus. Now, let me quote the scripture. The Bible says in the book of Isaiah chapter 41 verses 10, that fear not, for I am with you. Fear not, for I am with you.
Yes.
If somebody is afraid, read Isaiah 41 verses 10. Fear not, for I am with you. Look at it if you think I'm lying. Fear not, for I am. Now, the people who are following, the followers of Mackenzie, they live in a world of fear. So they believe that they should separate themselves and stay in the jungle. And they believe that Christ will give them strength. Now, how can somebody who is not with you give you strength? You claim that you want to meet him. How can he give you strength? Won't someone who is in you give you strength?
I can tell you for sure what beats logic is just how much one's psychology can be affected to that extent that they will actually do anything, just about anything, without necessarily thinking. And my heart really goes out to the children, because you see, you can say the adults would make a choice. They had the chance to decide. But for children who have also been part of those who've been the children who died, I should say, they really didn't have the choice, because then they were following the parents. They didn't have much of a choice. But the Interior CS says that this church leader or pastor should be tried for genocide, and not in Kenya, but at the International Criminal Court, the ICC.
About children, it is quite sad.
Yes. It's very sad for children, because they couldn't make that choice. And actually there was a clip, and I really want us to make progress and go to something else on what the dailies have, but I'm just reminded of the fact that there was a clip that was going around of a child who was saying that school is not even important. Education, and you can realize also that's what the PD has covered. Part of what was part of this doctrine was that education has no place for God.
The Bible says, by the way, if anyone teaches you that education is not good, that it has no place in salvation, they are lying to you. The Bible says, study and show yourself approved for every good work.
But I'm wondering if someone would say education has no place, well, the preacher looks educated from how he speaks, what he says. So how would you say to...
That is a criminal. That is a criminal masquerading. The Bible says that in the end times there will be false teachers and false prophets who
this
will...
is what you're witnessing.
Yeah, they will convince many and many will perish. That's what the Bible says. Many will be convinced and many will perish. So it doesn't matter how somebody presents themselves, because the Bible still says that be careful, because even the devil aligns himself as an angel of light.
Very true.
So if someone tells you to avoid education, they're lying, and they're going against the word of God, which tells us to study and show ourselves approved for every good work. Be educated, seek education.
But let's just hope justice is going to be found for these families, much as it's a conundrum of issues, because there are so many questions with regards to this matter. When you look at the legal aspect, when you look at the spirituality aspect, the place of politics as well, because also there was that concerns that these churches, the multitudes that they draw is a podium for politicians. So there's really quite a lot of questions that need to be answered, and we just can say from where we sit is that we hope justice will prevail for the families that have lost their kin, children and loved ones.
Mackenzie needs to be punished.
Needs to be punished, you say?
Yeah, he needs to be punished. And I feel like this is just some cult. Yeah, it is a cult.
It's not spirituality.
A form of devil worship, if I may say so. And we should not entertain such acts. And shame on people out there who masquerade themselves as men of God, misleading many. Even so, dear Kenyans, as our former president used to say, fellow Kenyans, be careful. Don't believe everything you read and everything you hear. Even the Bible says that a fool believes every word. Do not believe everything.
So don't be a fool.
Don't be a fool.
Yeah, as you rightfully say, so that these are things that we not need to look into them lightly.
Yeah.
And as we speak at lightly, the 24-year-old woman in Kitengela who killed her only daughter, removed some body parts. Matters in court, has been arraigned. But we look at what really led to this matter. Before we look at how the dailies have covered this story for you, take a look at what our reporter covered in regards to the same.
7-year-old Olivia Nasserian was arraigned before Kajedo Principal Magistrate Jane Kamu 2 days after the brutal killing of her only child. In a disturbing video which we cannot show as recorded by neighbors at Milimani Estate in Kitengela, Kajedo County, 27-year-old Olivia Nasserian is seen repeatedly stabbing her 2-year-old baby Gloria while singing. The neighbors are hard pleading with Olivia to spare the child. All this in vain.
Stop! 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 Olivia, stop!
The neighbors say Olivia Nasserian locked herself in the house and was playing with the baby before she suddenly turned violent and began breaking items in the house, which caught their attention only to witness the gruesome acts. They could not get access into the locked house. Upon being alerted by neighbors, police officers had to break into the house, but it was rather too late. Officer commanding Kitengela Police Station, David Shani, says the officers found the suspect unconscious, her teeth and clothes soaked in blood. Olivia was arrested and first taken to Kitengela Sub-County Hospital. The neighbors alleged the woman killed the baby after she parted ways with the father, but upon arrest, the woman said she killed the child because she does not love herself. Baby Gloria's remains were taken to the Kitengela Sub-County Hospital morgue. The accused will remain in police custody for the next 10 days to allow completion of investigations. The incident coming barely 2 days after a 27-year-old man killed his 25-year-old lover in an eatery in Kitengela in a suspected case of love triangle.
This is really disturbing, and I'm wondering what has become of our society, what has become of people. Has life become so much priceless? And this just coming days, as Sarafina Robbie rightfully put it, so after a 27-year-old man killed his 25-year-old lover, this lady Olivia, 24, she was a student within one of those schools in the local community there in Kitengela. What baffles me the most is that self-esteem, of course, going by also what the Daily Nation has covered, is that she really didn't quite put it so much into detail to what extent and what exactly she meant by all this, but just largely self-esteem. Didn't love herself. But is this even enough reason? Okay, it's not even reason. Is this even reason for killing your own child? That you didn't love yourself, issues of self-esteem, or not in good terms with the father of the child?
Well, one thing that I can say, Doreen, the lady by the name Olivia. Olivia is a student.
She is a student.
She's a student. 24 years
Very
of
young.
age.
Very young.
With a child and a man that has just left her. I'm seeing a young lady who has made mistakes in life, and a young lady who has seen or felt the pain of disappointment. But everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets disappointed. Everybody goes through that period of self-doubt. I don't know if I'm talking to people who have not gone through that period of time where they felt like they don't like themselves.
I think if you're still alive, or if you're still living, this has definitely happened to you. And if it hasn't, it will.
It will.
You will always be disappointed at some point.
Yes. So why would you do a thing like this? This lady is either one demon possessed or two mentally ill.
In fact, it comes out that the whole idea was for her to kill herself. So she wanted to commit suicide before it changed very rapidly, and she decided to kill her child. So I'm seeing an issue of mental illness.
But is it? Is it?
Depression?
Does it mean that anybody who commits murder is mentally ill? We need to establish that. Because yes, the police are trying to investigate whether she is mentally ill or sane, but we need to accept the fact that somebody can commit an act like that and is actually sane.
We'll wait for the relevant agencies to establish that, and perhaps definitely we can't go to the merits of this matter because it is an active case.
It's an active case
in court, but all we can say is that we need to be our brother's keepers, because I'm also looking at this story and I'm seeing that the neighbors were around, the neighbors were there, and for those who are taking the clip, aside from just calling Olivia's name, could there have been something they could have done more than that?
There's nothing they could have done.
There's nothing they could have done more.
In my view, I took time to watch that clip again today. I just took time, and I felt
there's nothing more they
so
could have
sad.
done.
Yeah. So what this lady did, the daughter was playing outside. She came, took the daughter from that play area where they were, and went inside with the child.
Inside the house.
Inside the house. So when she got in, she locked the door. After locking the door, neighbors started hearing some noise. According to one of our dailies here, that is the Standard, or I have the Standard or the Star, one of them was mentioning that the neighbors actually thought that there was a criminals or some thief that had...
The Daily Nation has also captured it as so.
Yes. And that's why they came, only to find the house locked and the woman who is there actually beating up that child. So the neighbors couldn't have done anything. But now I heard on that particular clip the person recording saying that I am documenting this. Even as we're trying to get a solution or some form of help, I'm documenting it. As another was trying to break into the house.
Yeah, so that's why then we are saying we really can't go into the merits of it, given it's an active case, but all we can say is that we are a society that needs help.
One thing that I know...
We need a lot of help.
We need help. We need to have conversations about how we solve our issues. And that's why I mentioned earlier, everybody is looking for hope.
tying it to Pastor Mackenzie's church. But we need to move away from that before we get to wrap up and looking at what other stories that the dailies have captured for you. The issue of counties also coming to the fore. There's been quite the tussle and push and pull between national government and counties with regards to delayed disbursement. We remember on Monday, that was Monday afternoon, the Kirinyaga governor, who is also the COG chair, Council of Governors chair, Anne Waiguru, did say that indeed the January disbursement had already been released, and so they were asking for 94 billion from the national government for the month of February, March and April. But it just turns out the National Treasury could be releasing those funds by this Friday. That is a total of 31.4 billion for the month of February. So that will mean month of March and April, county governments will still have to wait just a little bit longer or for a while before the National Treasury releases those funds. But again, what is really coming out as quite the question there is that it's quite conflicting, because KRA did say that they have surpassed their collection, especially for the financial year 2021-2022, which just has about a month and a half for this financial year to end. They did surpass their collection with about 114 billion, and if the reports by KRA or anything to go by, that which was released early this month of April, they did indicate that they did surpass by about 93%. So then the realm of question has been, if they have surpassed their collection, or they're doing at least well in terms of how they're collecting, why has there been so many issues with regards to disbursements, delayed disbursements, especially in the counties? And also the other issue that has come to the fore is that you remember that county governors, or the COG, had asked for 427 to be allocated to the counties, while the Commission on Revenue Allocation did proffer for 407. That is what they recommended. But the Senate, just late last week, they did pass the 385, which the government had proposed. Of course, an increase from the previous financial year, or the previous dispensation, which was at 370 billion to the counties, with a total of 15 billion shillings extra. But then if whatever KRA is reporting is anything to go by, why has there been delayed disbursement in the counties? And even as this story is also anything to go by, we're looking at also a delayed disbursement for the month of March and April. So there's been quite a number of questions with regards to counties and matters of revenue allocation, and how all this is coming out to a point that we're even looking at that new proposal of KRA becoming the overall collector, not just of the taxes, but also fees, levies and fines from the county. That is still a proposal, but we also wait to see how that will turn out. Ram, before I toss it over to you to finish up with the star, there's also one thing here from the People Daily still, and that is the High Court, which has now allowed Parliament to be enjoined in Azimio's suit on CS, that is Cabinet Secretaries, that is the National Assembly, members of National Assembly from the Azimio coalition, which now the High Court has allowed for them to be part of this Azimio suit. Thus, Azimio senators had taken this matter to court, and the issue is the standing orders that were amended to allow for Cabinet Secretaries to appear before Parliament for questioning. What Azimio is now saying is that for this to happen, it needs to go back to the people, so it needs to perhaps look into change of constitution and not just amending standing orders in Parliament. You remember that this is part of the 4 key issues that the President had written in a memo to both houses of Parliament, both speakers, to see how this could be amended. And just 2 weeks back, we saw the first Cabinet Secretary appearing before Parliament. That was Professor Kithure Kindiki, to answer questions allied to the Interior Ministry and how all the issues of banditry, how he was dealing with that. But that is now what Azimio is saying, that this needs not to happen. This is a violation of the Constitution. If we have to have CSs appearing before Parliament as opposed to appearing before committees, which is what is provided in the law, then that same law is what needs to be looked into, and that has to be a preserve of it being taken to the people first, and not just being amended in form of standing orders in Parliament. We again to wait to see how all this will turn out in the courts. Ram, as we finish up the Stand and the Standard.
Yeah, let me start with the Standard, because you're talking about matters concerning Parliament.
Yeah.
Kenyans are to pay 27 billion shillings for 18 years to sustain the wind farm operations. That's right. According to the Standard here, Kenyans will be coughing up to 27.1 billion Kenya shillings for the 100 megawatts Kipeto wind power project for the next 18 years, whether we use it or not. Of course, this conversation is what has been taking trends. The Senate Energy Committee yesterday put the management of Kipeto Energy to task over its high charges for generating electricity compared to KenGen wind power, despite them being in the same region. Statements show Kenya Power owes Kipeto Energy 3.6 billion Kenya shillings. And of course, as a taxpayer, taxpayers will foot the amount whether they use the electricity or not. Well, that story is...
It's very sad. I mean, those agreements that the government did sign with IPPs, whether you consume or not, you still pay for it. And that's why there's been a bit of concern with the independent power producers.
Exactly.
And you know, that story, I've also seen it on the Daily Nation, and they are saying that the cost of electricity will still continue to go, will still remain as is high, so don't expect it to come down any sooner. And some of the reasons they were also putting forth is that cost of fuel is high. The shilling is fluctuating. Right now we're looking at 132 against the dollar. Yeah. And this contractual agreements that IPPs did sign with the state from as early as 90s when they got into the market. So some of these things, it will take some bit of time before they're looked into.
It will. Yeah. And still, moving on to other stories here concerning all Kenyans. Somebody on Twitter was asking, the rains that we experienced yesterday, was there a typhoon moving in the country? Well, moving on to the Star, brace yourselves, Kenyans, because according to the meteorological department, another wave of heavy rains is coming up this week until the end of the month. Well, the rains will cover most of the country. The Met Director, Dr. David Gikungu, said that people living in Rift Valley Highlands around Lake Victoria, the coast, Ukambani, and northeastern Kenya should keep watch. Remember last week a downpour in Mombasa left many roads and streets flooded, and in Kisumu East we had cases of flooding. The northeastern Kenya is also experiencing flooding as we speak. And last week insurance companies began paying, and get this, 173 million to the pastoralists who lost their livestock to the just ended drought. So Kenyans, rains are expected to continue throughout May in many places, particularly western Kenya. So brace yourselves for flooding according to the Met Department. And that is briefly on the Star.
Time for us to take a break now.
Yeah. Let's take a break.
Yes.
Alafu akainama, akasikiza tumbo yangu, akagonga gonga, akasema ni sindano.
You said that I inject that indopicin. Yes, indopicin, ndio? Epidural. Wewe wacha mchezo pana. Mimi na matawa naingililia wapi na mimi mwenyewe ni cleaner.
Sasa
uamsho uende wapi?
Unaamshwa uende wapi?
Kutunga hiyo pande nyingine uandike kabisa. Yes, unaletea ujinga kwa nini?
Sasa wewe mwenyewe una conclude you are lying, okay?
No, I'm just
Yes, you have agreed that you are lying.
So what?
Allah.
No. Ni ngumu.
Sasa mzee, si uongee lugha ya taifa ambayo unaielewa.
Now, according to the 2019 census report, 5.3 million Kenyan youths out of the possible 13.7, this amounts to 39%, are still currently jobless. And this is what continues to create the sharp divide between the rich and the poor in Kenya. This is why possible interventions are being mulled, particularly when it comes to getting skill-based education, TVET institution, vocational training, and revamping all this to just ensure that at least we can bridge this gap and reduce on the number of unemployed youths in the country. This is what I'm set to converse in the next 35 minutes with my guest. That is Dr. Esther Moria, Principal Secretary, TVET. Welcome, Daktari.
Thank
and
you.
Just first things first.
Yes.
Because yours was a very peculiar, interesting case. Why? November last year, hours after just being sworn in as the county secretary in Embu, the president nominates you to the Ministry of Education as PS TVET. What was going through your mind at this point?
I was amazed. Let me say, at most, Doreen, thank you very much, first of all, for having me. It's a pleasure. It was amazing because I was sworn in as the county secretary for Embu on the 1st of November on a Tuesday evening, and the following day, and I started actually taking over the office. The following day, we had a battery of meetings with the governor. So I was with my predecessor. We were having one meeting after the other, and then we would have a meeting at the boardroom, then in the governor's office, because we had very many meetings. And then at one point, as we are passing through the corridors, the people around the corridor start asking me, "Oh, madam, you don't want to celebrate?" And I thought they were telling me to celebrate my getting sworn in the county secretary, and I was too busy even to pay attention. So at one point we were having the Embu professionals meeting with the governor. So we went in, and since I know them anyway, I wasn't very keen on them introducing themselves. So that's when I picked my phone just to check as the introductions were going on. And then I see there is a nomination. I was so shocked. I was so surprised. Now I can't walk out of the meeting, and because
you hadn't expected this.
No, I hadn't really expected it, but I had applied. I had gone for the interviews, and I was waiting like everybody else. And then, wow, I see the nomination. I was very surprised, pleasantly surprised, and the rest of the day I was in some kind of limbo. I have a lot of work here to do, and I have the nomination now to appreciate. It was a heart-rendering experience.
Nonetheless,
Yes.
3 months later, this is now around February, almost getting into March.
Yes.
As a principal secretary in the Ministry of Education, particularly TVET, and this is where your heart is. And just looking at what the State Department of TVET is doing, talking about identifying vocational education as a pathway for green jobs. First of all, what does this even mean?
You're right, Doreen. This is, I got into a space, okay, still coming from education background, I got into a space that has become very exciting for me. Why? I see it as a space that is capable of transforming the youth of this country, as a space that is going to change, that should change the job story in this country, and a space that could even transform this country to another level of development. Why? Because I remember when we had technical institutions in this country, like people were going to Kagumo Teachers Training College, and then there was Nyeri Technical Training College. When we had the real technical colleges, some of which were transformed into universities, we produced people who are able to do a lot of technical work. Like there's a time we used to have the agricultural extension officers trained in these middle level colleges, and they were doing tremendous work. Then we started overemphasizing, maybe for the right thing, on the university education. And I think we need to trace our steps back there, because we need the technical people in this country. When you go out there now looking for a plumber, a person who can do real plumbing work, they are not there. When you look for people who can weld meticulously, they are not there. So we need to retrace our steps. We need to tell our youth that this is where real employment is, because I have for a while now told a story of a house I saw, because I've been in Jomo Kenyatta. So I've been going through Roiro every day, and I saw a building coming up, and I saw it completed, and I'm the same person who still saw water oozing through the walls. That means you can imagine the kind of plumber who did that work. I saw it coming up, and I saw the water pouring when I'm still on that road. So what we are saying is that the skill set in this country needs to be rethought in a very serious manner. And this, Doreen, I can tell you, I am very passionate about, because I have real experience of skill sets that are missing in this country, not just in this country, but even internationally. We have been told, we have been asked for people to work outside this country who have the skills. We don't have them, and they're needed. And then like even our younger sisters who are going to look for jobs in the Middle East, and they end up in trouble. You know why? Because they don't have the housekeeping skills. They are necessary. This is a girl or a young woman who has come from the village. She's never seen a microwave. Those are the things they're finding in the kitchens of these ladies in these countries. So we need to get them, bring them to our institutions, skill them in modern house management, and then they can go and get pertinent jobs there, and they're going to earn a lot of money in form of dollars. So for me, I see this as a space which we can change a lot of things, not only in terms of the employability of our youth, but also in terms of having a lot of foreign exchange flow back into this country.
But you've said something very pertinent, which I'd like us to broach a little bit further. When you touched on the particular issue of churning out more universities, because you did talk about Nyeri, you talked about Kagumo, and just almost recently we had our very own Kenya Polytechnic being transferred to Technical University of Kenya. Oh yes. So do you think this was a downsize on our part as a country, such that we are sort of like collapsing TVETs and making them university institutions at the benefit of who?
Doreen, I think for the benefit of Kenyans. And that was the thinking then. That was the thought line then, and we may not really be able to blame anyone for that thinking, because just like we did with the girl child, A point came when we thought the girl child was down there. We overemphasized the issue of the girl child. Now the girls, oh my goodness. Now we are going back to the boy. Same story. We had it right. Maybe it was good to emphasize on university education and to really think that we all needed to get to that space. We needed to encourage our youth to get to that space. Okay, we have been there long enough. Now can we, and then in the process, just like I've given the analogy of the girl, we realize, no, there's somebody we left behind. The skills. We left the skills behind. So we need to retrace our footsteps and go back there and start pushing it up all over again. We need to start communicating to our youth and telling them this is the space to go and showing them the benefits. We even need to talk to ourselves. We who are in government, let me tell you, it is not everybody who is still looking at it from the same lenses like me and you, maybe. There are those who still think we should stay in this space, which we had already created. So we had reasons to push the university agenda up, but we have now done it enough. Can we now go back, like we are going back to the boy child, and now tell everyone it is about skills. This is what we need in this country. This is what we need out there.
And you're talking about skills.
And skills. Yes.
So then, from where you sit,
yes,
how then do we start reorienting these young people? Because, look at this. Going by that 2019 census report, 5.3 million Kenyan youths out of the possible 13.7 million are still jobless.
Yes.
And what we know over time is that go to primary school, go to secondary, go to university, go get a white-collar job. How do we begin reorienting their minds to start thinking of even vocational training, skills, TVET? What do we do?
I am not underestimating the extent of the work that must be done here. We have spoken and we have overemphasized the white collar space for a long time until it has become a culture. Culture change, Doreen, is not easy, but it's got to be done. So what I am doing at the department, for instance, right now, I have come up with what we call national information and a communique. Really, we are calling it NITCAS. I'm forgetting the name in communication and advocacy strategy. A communication and advocacy strategy, where we want to get all the people who can speak my language to speak into it, and we get like you people in the press to blow it up, so that we put it everywhere in our first languages, on all the media, and we even have the road shows where we need to leverage on whatever we can to preach this gospel, that it is not all lost to go to a TVET institution and get skilled. And we want to show the benefits of getting these skills. And we want to tell them that the government and other working partners that we are working with are ready to help us to be able to place them in the skilled areas, both locally and even internationally. So we are coming up with that communication strategy, where we are we are working with even people like Safaricom, who are going to help us get this message across. We are going to work with people like you, or the media houses, and we are going to preach the gospel. The other thing we are doing is that we are changing the face of our institutions. And we are speaking with the Council of Governors, where the VTCs, the Vocational Training Institutes, what we call village polytechnics, formally, are placed, because that is where the youth who are really in the village, we need to encourage them to go there. But so we are working, like I've said, with the Council of Governors, so that we are able to speak to them to upscaling even the face of these institutions, so that we can encourage our youth to go there, because nobody wants to go to a place that looks dilapidated, you know. But when you look at our other colleges, the government has done a lot. They are beautiful. When you go to Harvest, go to Eldoret National Polytechnic, go to Kabete here. They are beautiful institutions. Kabete Polytechnic, or it is National Polytechnic. They are beautiful places to be in, so that we encourage our youth and tell them these are the places to be in, and just like any other child going to school, they can access help loans. Well, we already have funding from government at about 60%. So they for the rest, they can get help loan. They can get all these funding facilities that are available for them to be able to be in school. So we want to preach the gospel, and I am determined to pick it up from where I have found, and be able to encourage as many youth as possible. Then we have what we call the Kenya National KNQL Qualifications Authority, where there are very many people who know how to do things. They do akali, but they are not certified. The artisans, they're not certified. So we want to bring them. We want to do what we call recognition of prior learning, so that we are able to see at what level they fit. We are able to certify them, so that now they can also get engaged even across the country. The other thing we are doing is we want to work very hard to get international or other institutions training the same skills that we want to train, so that we get a double certification, where you can get a certificate from our institution, and also an institution, say in Germany, like you are a welder who is recognized both in Germany and in Kenya. So we want to do that dual training. And we are looking for ways of getting really dual certification for so that they are internationally recognized. And when we take this message out, you know, they'll be interested. They'll be encouraged to come to our space, and they can be recognized across the waters.
I hear you.
Yes.
Certification of the students,
yes,
and also just trying to ensure they are going to be learning in a good space.
Yes.
At least also make those that feel like, TVET, just you go to a TVET when everything is not working.
Yeah.
But that's what you're trying to do away with.
Yes, to ensure that things are working.
Yes.
The government has helped us come up with good trainers. I can assure you, Doreen, our trainers, our principals are good. Yes, they know what they're doing. They are well placed in their space. The government is in the process of recruiting another 1,300 trainers for us, among others. We actually had requested right now for 3,300, but we've been allowed right away to recruit 1,300, so that they have trainers. And again, we are working with industry, and we are changing our curricula also to ensure that our trainees are 70% in industry, because we want them to be hands-on trained. We are working with our development partners to be able to sponsor these young people in industry, so that they can spend most of their time there to learn by doing. So that at the time they are through with their education, they are actually skilled. We are also changing our assessment space, so that even the examinations, the assessment that is going to be done, it is going to be skills-based. It is going to be practical-based, not theory anymore.
Well said.
Yes.
Now, Dr. Mercy, quite a lot to talk about in regards. Dr. Esther, sorry. Talk to me about that idea of looking at TVETs in terms of creating job opportunities in infrastructure, development, manufacturing. What mechanisms have been put in place? And even just from where you sit in your ministry, Dr. Esther, what are you doing as far as that is concerned?
Employability.
Yes.
I think right now, Doreen, what I want to run away with, what I am running with right now, is putting the correct curricula in place. Because as we speak now, Doreen, if a company came into Kenya today and they want 1,000 plumbers to work with, where would I get them from? They are not skilled. We actually will not get them. So I am not even thinking about the level of employability now. I am thinking and concentrating on change of curricula. Curricula has to be changed. Curricula has to be reworked to the skills space, where we are going to graduate a student in plumbing, in welding, in absolute housekeeping, in hairdressing, among others. So I may not even think about employability now, because who am I going to tell your industry that they can employ right now? Where, without skills, where are the welders? Where would I get the welders from? So I am taking time, and I would and this is what we are speaking about in ministry right now, where the concentration right now is on skills, where we are going to ensure that we are breaking curricula into the skills set, so that in a few years time, then we are going to say we can employ all 1,000 youth in this industry. But right now, Doreen, they are not there.
Training is where the focus is right now.
Training and curricular change and development is where the focus is right now. And that is why I am saying, yesterday we spent a whole day with the principals speaking into this. And we are in agreement that we are going to rework the curricula so that we have the skills set, trained and graduated. Then we can talk about, well, because we are also having the housing, the presidential housing scheme going on, we are speaking to our institutions and we are telling them, like those who have been training in building technology, they should work in that scheme. And any other government major project coming up, our students should be able to go there, so that we are calling it TVET on wheels, so that they are able to train as the work is going on. But for me, that is not where the focus is right now. The focus is, like I have told you, on building the pertinent skills.
I hear you. Yes. Well said. Now, that you are talking about curriculum, and this is also where your focus is highly built on. Right now, we are still on the CBC, as is the competency-based curriculum. Do you think this is the silver bullet? Is this what you had been needing for the longest time, to begin the reshaping as early as toddlers?
I think so. I think CBC is the way to go. And what is so exciting for me about CBC is, well, the beginning of the skill set from that age, but also the culture, the child culture training, where we are adopting like a culture child training, like I've seen in Japan, where a child will even tell you thank you for the smallest thing you have done. I went to my mother church not too long time ago, and a child came to me and told me, "Excuse me, madam, you are very smart." that niceness, for lack of a better word, that CBC is training our child to be. Because Doreen, you and me will agree that you can be very well trained. You can have gone to the highest level of education or even skilling, but when you are a nice person, you are not a nice person, nobody wants to work with you. So character shaping is so admirable to me as far as CBC is concerned. And secondly, by the time that child is out of either primary or secondary education, because I am a respecter of the fact that we all are not equally endowed. And I've always told people, we all don't have to be university professors. We all don't have to be doctors like me, but you can be the best at where you are. So by the time this child is out of primary or secondary, they have a very good idea of which space they would want to be. Because for me, even when I was still at the university, a lot of people would come and ask me, Madam, which program do you think I can fit into? And my question would always be, what is it that you feel you want to do? Where is your excitement? You know? So for me now, with CBC, by the time this child is at a certain level, they are quite aware of really where they would like to go, and it will be very easy for me and even the university level to skill them.
Well said. And we can clearly all agree that CBC is the way to go. However, Madam PS, it will be a bit of a disservice for me not to ask this question. Given you sit in the Ministry of Education, much as it's inclined towards TVET, and there's been concerns, particularly from parents, learners alike, various stakeholders, because even as we speak, there are some schools where teachers are not yet there. Learners already reported, on 30th of January, about 2 weeks back. What is the ministry doing?
The ministry is doing everything they can. Let me tell you, Doreen, things in the ministry or in the government space, because of the bureaucracies and many other things, do not happen overnight. Like they could be happening in KBC. So yes, I know the TSC has been working very hard, honestly, to come up with the number of teachers that there are. Everything may not be rosy right now, but I know my colleague, Dr. Mbelio, is on his feet. I know my boss, CS Mashogu, is on his feet to make sure things happen the way they should. They may not be overly rosy right now, but we are not sleeping in the ministry. We are doing whatever it takes. I know that recruitment is going on. It may not happen overnight, but it will eventually come to be. But that might be a bit of a downside. But when you look at the upside, at least the students are in their institutions, though they might be waiting for the they might be waiting for the facilitator, but at least they are in their space. Maybe they are CBCing in the area of getting to know each other and getting to learn the much they can learn with the few teachers who are there. At least they are in their space. And me and you agree, we parents also appreciate when a child is able to go to school. They may not right now be getting 100% of what they want at the school space, but at least about 80%, if not more, is in place. And what is not in place, we are doing everything possible to bring it on board.
Madam PS, just allow me to ask you one last question as far as CBC is concerned. Yes, you're saying that almost 80% is in place, but there are also some other concerns. One for 14 subjects, and we are talking about competency-based curriculum. We want to churn out skill-based learners who would even begin appreciating TVET as early as then. Is this practical?
It may not appear rosy, and I think, Doreen, that is what I said earlier on, right now. Because everything starts with its own challenges. I agree. And eventually, we are going to walk there. The employing of teachers and even the boards, the school boards, we are encouraging them also to do as much as they can to be able to fill in this space, because we are all Kenyans. We must help one another. The President Ruto has said that he came to a space where even money was a problem. So all of us Kenyans have got to work together, have got to support one another to be able to do what must be done there as we dream of a more rosy situation to come in due course.
Well said. Kenyans who are listening to you, what would you want them to know, even as we talk about reorienting our minds as a country, moving away from just thinking about white-collar jobs, thinking about universities as the only place to get education of higher learning, as we try to sort of like begin to get attracted to TVETs? and vocational training and skill-based kind of learning, what would you want them to know?
I want Kenyans to know that we walk a certain path, a space or a time of rethinking our direction and our doing things does come. This is it. Even Paul in the Bible was going somewhere, and when he got to Damascus, something happened, and he has to rethink. And he has to rethink his direction. I am not saying we have been treading as dangerous a path as Paul, but what I am saying is
we need to have a Damascus moment.
we don't need to have a Damascus moment. We need to arrive at Damascus. This for me is always a very good analogy, where we need to see what we have not done absolutely right and be able to rethink our space. And let me tell you, Doreen, it is not wrong to be wrong, but it is wrong to be consistently wrong. So, or out of space. So, we have done things in a certain way for a long time, and we need now to rethink, and we need to check what we need to do differently so that we can arrive at a different space which is going to be better than where we have been.
Well said. It is not wrong to do a wrong thing, but it is wrong to consistently and continually do it.
Yes.
I hear you. I have definitely been speaking to Dr. Esther Moria, who's the Principal Secretary TVET, of course, just outlining for us what they're doing as a ministry as far as revamping TVET's institution is concerned, getting those skill-based graduates, and how basically we as a country can also reorient our minds to look and think about vocational training, skill-based kind of education.
Say why. They haven't gotten back to us. But he made it clear that she won't be doing the interview. And he also said that they would never do an interview with us.
You said to me the first time you came to my office.
I'm leaving.
Next on Mpakani.
Zari. Naburang?
We recover 4 adult remains. 3 male and 1 female.
Waxaan rabaa inay wada dhintaan.
Wayna ka shakeen no qorshada weyn. Nome se dunkadi.
I'll pay for what my father owes you, and in exchange, you'll give me the real report, the complete one, regarding the past of Malena.
Fine. That sounds fair. I'll see what I can do.
So when are you going to give it to me?
I really don't want to hurt you by doing this. Corina, I would rather sacrifice my feelings for you.
Please don't leave me.
Amparo never wanted to get married with that guy Reynaldo. And I understand that you don't want my son Ruben for your daughter. But how could you force Amparo to marry a man she doesn't even love? How could you convince her to accept all of these things?
I'm not going to waste much of your time. I just came over so you could explain to me just how and when you decided to marry me, Fabiola.
2018, NACADA reported that about 4.9 million Kenyans aged 15 to 64 were abusing one form of drug or the other, with prevalence high on alcohol abuse. We speak to Dr. Eunice Menja, who is a family and marriage therapist, as well as the founder of Ponka, to tell us more about what she is doing with the various initiatives to alleviate the burden of drug addiction. It is her passion for alleviating the burden of addiction, spanning from programs done over time with street kids, that has informed Eunice to want to bridge the gap spotted on issues of mental health and drug addiction.
Ponka Mental Health Clinic is a U.S. initiative. We started this clinic to really take care of people's mental health. I told you earlier that I trained in the US as a family and marriage therapy, and then I also taught psychology in the US. So when I came here to train child workers about childhood trauma, I was faced by the crisis that we have here of mental health. So that is what pushed me to start this clinic, because many people were asking for our services.
With 4.9 million Kenyans abusing one form of drug or another, according to 2018 NACADA report, alcohol still remains most common abused drug, not only just among those aged 15 to 24, but also the older generation. How then does a therapy session look like? I ask.
The therapy session, when they come to the clinic, first of all, we usually do an assessment. So there is an intake process that we do. So we have to try and find out why they came to us, and then also we do the assessment. So the assessment is actually to look at the symptoms. So those symptoms, we use this manual so that we can match their symptoms with the disorder. So their disorder might not be addiction, so this book is going to tell us that, because we have been trained to use it. And then once we established what their disorder is, or whether it is addiction, whether it is another mental disorder like depression, or actually most of the things, the one thing that we have to do in this country is also to screen people for suicide, knowing that the suicide level is very high. So if people come here and say, I'm depressed, I feel helpless, those are some of the things that tell us we need to actually make sure that these people are not suicidal. When they leave this office, they are not going to commit suicide. So we do the assessment, and then of course we ask about, what are some of the factors that surround them. That is also, assessing their needs. What are some of the needs that they don't, they really require, that is making them either depressed or is making their case work. And then after that, we actually design a treatment plan. So the treatment plan is where now we decide whether we are going to involve other people to actually help in a treatment team. So it might be a psychologist, it might be a medical doctor, because sometimes, especially with addiction, we want to make sure that before we even treat them, there's a process of detoxification, whereby we actually make sure that we flush out whatever is in the system, and that can only be done after a medical evaluation, whereby they are taken, their sample is taken, and they are taken to the rehab. To the lab, to make sure that their kidney is working right, they have their sugar levels and things like that, because the medication that you give them, they require medication, because it's not everybody who is addicted that is going to require medication. So we want to make sure that their system is working right medically. Then we start treating them physically and also emotionally. So at the treatment center, where we have the rehab, we'll be doing exercises, we'll be teaching them, we'll be giving them whatever diet they need, because depending on how addicted they are, they might not even be eating, and things like that. So there is other exercises like yoga, like therapy. Our clients usually come here sometimes when they are very stressed. They say that they have not been able to sleep. So when they get on this massage bed, what they do is that they just relax there, and we tell them to, not to think about anything, not to think about their stressors, not to think about their problems. So we give them music to listen to, which is relaxation music. And then we can set up the intensity depending on, the age of the person, or if they have any other medical issues. So for this type of client, we just put medium, and then we put a wave massage for 30 minutes. And then the client can just sleep there. So what the therapy does, or what the bed does, is that it actually dissolves, the stress knots that we usually have on the neck, sometimes on the back. And so when they are relaxing there, one of the things that they do, we want them to meditate, we want them to just listen to that music. It helps them to relax. Some of the hormones that are being produced here, they are, anti-stress. So definitely they're helping them deal with the stress that they might be going through. What we hear with the clients after they leave this bed is that, I was for once able to sleep. And so a client will sleep here for 1 hour, and after they leave, after they're done, they'll be like, I want to be coming here, even without therapy, just to be on this bed, because we are incorporating science. Yeah, and how the brain works. So just that massage is helping everybody. Everything is in the nerves and the neurons to relax, to help her relax. Yeah. So those are just some of the ways that we actually help somebody psychologically to prepare for their treatment, because the treatment takes 3 months. It's not a one-day touch that somebody is healed. So we have to walk with them stage by stage. Some people, when it comes to treatment, they might have even lost their job, they might have lost their family, they might have lost even their children. They don't even have custody of their children. We want to be, because we are holistic, and I have a family and marriage background, so I want to make sure that their relationships that have been lost are also mended when we are doing the treatment. If somebody who is lost, maybe their scholarships, they were going to school and they dropped out. College students are, mainly when they get addicted, they don't go back to class, they drop out, they fail off their courses. And also because of my experience as a professor, I will help them to regain that through the treatment. So there are many things that you plan in a treatment plan. It is depending on how somebody is addicted, the things that they have lost, their needs, the people that are surrounding them, because we want to make sure that even after they leave their treatment, they can be able to cope. So who are their family members? We reconnect them with their family members, just like we would do to a child in a children's home. We want to find out who else could be part of their support. Some of them we call them sponsors, some of them we call them their support system. So we want to make sure that they establish that before they go back home.
Numerous cases of addiction that would ultimately lead to mental health disorders, cases of murder and suicide. Are there any success stories?
I want to start with the success stories. For the major time that we have been here, we have been doing outpatient recovery. So we have sometimes people who just walk in here, a student who walks in here and say, I am addicted, I dropped out of school, can you help me? Or my parents said I need to find a therapist. So they come here and we start talking, we build a rapport, we build a relationship, we start looking at their grades, we start looking at how the addiction is impacting them, and then we start actually now the treatment plan. So what we have had is that the parents might not have known that their child came to therapy, but they see some change. And then they ask, what is happening? And they say, yeah, I went to see Dr. Eunice. And then, of course, if they have been, if the parent is not the one who has been paying, they will walk in here and say, I'm so-and-so's dad. And just recently, we had a dad who walked in here and said, I just wanted to come and say thank you, because our son is now bathing, our son is now ready to go back to school, our son is actually now talking. Those are some of our success stories. The people that come and sit on this bench and say, Eunice, just being here, I look forward to, to our sessions, because we are giving them hope. Because Ponka is really about hope and healing, because people have become hopeless, especially in this country. And that's why we have had a lot of people who have committed suicide. So somebody who had suicidal thoughts and come here and say, last time I was feeling so depressed, and you call them later on after they have left and you say, how are you feeling today? I really feel hopeful. So those are some of our success stories. Yeah.
A survey done by a National Authority for the Campaign Against Alcohol and Drug Abuse, NACADA, indicates that prevalence still high on alcohol abuse at 12.2%, followed by tobacco at 8.4% and Mira at 4.2%. Moreover, how does the future look like in curbing cases of addiction?
Addiction is non-ending. Our first rehab center is, I don't want to call it high-end, but it is for middle class. We are looking at, because of the consultations that we have done, we have had people that have said, I cannot pay. We want to be able to expand in a way that the people that can pay, and the people that can't pay, we provide them scholarships. I want to tell you, Doreen, that, you know, I come from a village, it's in Mokoroine. Somebody tagged me in a post the other day and said 5 people have committed suicide in the last 1 month. And those are my age mates, because the reason why they're committing suicide is because they have been in alcoholism and they never got help. They became, you know, so devastated. They lost everything, their family members, or they lost even a marriage and children, and they lose hope and they commit suicide. Those are the people that Ponka wants to reach. But that is going to be in the future, where somebody can't pay, that we can be able to provide that. My hope is, because of the training that I have and the education that I have and experience, I really want us to have a training center where we can train more psychologists. I know you have met some of our psychologist trainees, and they, you know, when we don't have clients here, we actually learning. We have a lot of books that we read. Some of them I brought back from the US, some of them I use them in when I'm teaching psychology, and they will tell you that they're learning a lot from maybe something different that they learned in school. And so we want to actually ignite this fire. This is really something that, you know, it's like, I want to say it's like a campaign. You remember when I was on KBC last, I talked about childhood trauma. We want our mental health, you know, practice to actually be trauma informed, and that is what everybody is seeking. So the people that I trained have come back and said, we want more training. How can we do trauma informed therapy? And that's what I want to see Ponka does in every county, in every village, in every college. Because even when I teach students here, because I actually lecture at JKUAT, I talk about trauma informed care everywhere I go, because I know that how much trauma is impacting our mental health, how much trauma is tied to alcohol and, you know, drug abuse, and so that we can prevent and also treat people. Yes.
Doreen Arange Okello for Good Morning Kenya.
Alafu akainama, akasikiza tumbo yangu, akagonga gonga, akasema ni sindano.
You said that I inject 30 indopicins. Yes, indopicins, ndio? Epidural. Wewe wacha mchezo pana. Mimi na matawa naingililia wapi, na mimi mwenyewe ni kilina.
Sasa
uamsho uende wapi?
Unaamsho uende wapi?
Unaona na yeye.
Kutunga hiyo pande nyingine uandike kabisa. Yes, analetea ujinga kwa nini?
Sasa wewe mwenyewe una conclude you are lying, okay?
No, I'm just
yes, you have agreed that you are lying.
So what?
Allah.
No. Ni ngumu.
Sasa mzee, si uongee lugha ya taifa ambayo unaielewa.
Journey to the ends of the earth. Searching for the love I deserve.
Making good vibes, oh yeah. Show, good vibes. Save some for me.
She is a good girl, and I never wanna see her cry. Her heart and mind and soul belongs to me.
Sins of the Father I visited from home in a never-ending circle.
say why. They haven't gotten back to us. But he made it clear that she won't be doing the interview. And he also said that they would never do an interview with us.
You said to me the first time you came to my office.
Please allow me to take the reins. I hope no matter what, you'll be on my side. And no matter what, you'll support me. Jamie.
I know. I know I can't help you very much when anything bad happens. With my limited knowledge and experience, all I can do is make some phone calls and search some information.
Sorry, Hansen. I just need some alone time and space to think about things. I'm leaving.
I'll pay for what my father owes you, and in exchange, you'll give me the real report, the complete one, regarding the past of Malena.
Fine. That sounds fair. I'll see what I can do.
So when are you going to give it to me?
I really don't want to hurt you by doing this. Corina, I would rather sacrifice my feelings for you.
Please don't leave me.
Amparo never wanted to get married with that guy Reynaldo. And I understand that you don't want my son Ruben for your daughter. But how could you force Amparo to marry a man she doesn't even love? How could you convince her to accept all of these things?
I'm not gonna waste much of your time. I just came over so you could explain to me just how and when you decided to marry me, Fabiola.
Next on Mpakani.
Zari. Naburan?
We recover 4 adult remains. 3 male and 1 female.
Waharaba ini wada dintan.
Waina kashake no korsha the win. Nome se dunkadi.
At KBC Channel 1, we put people at the heart of events with our captivating weekly news features. Every day, we are breaking new grounds with informative, entertaining, and inspiring human interest stories. On Mondays, 9 p.m., we have The Cabinets. Tuesday, 9 p.m., we get inside the barracks for military tales. We delve in the world of cinemas and theater each Wednesday night. For the young and industrious, make a date with us every Thursday at 9 p.m. Fridays are dedicated for my culture. On Saturdays, we go back in time for history in perspective. And on Sundays, we get to know the process of how things are done and made. KBC Channel 1 News features a whole lot of wonderful viewing experience.
Alafu akainama, akasikiza tumbo yangu, akagonga, akasema ni sindano.
You said that I inject that endopsins. Yes, endopsins, ndio? Epidural. Wewe wacha mchezo pana. Mimi na matawa naingililia wapi na mimi mwenyewe ni cleaner.
Sasa
uamsho uende wapi?
Unaamshwa uende wapi?
Kutunga hiyo pande nyingine uandike kabisa. Yes, analetea ujinga kwa nini?
Sasa wewe mwenyewe una conclude you are lying, okay?
No, I'm just
yes, you have agreed that you are lying.
So what?
Allah.
No. Ni ngumu.
Sasa mzee, si uongee lugha ya taifa ambayo unaielewa.
Senate is scheduled to begin its question time to the cabinet secretaries. And of course, this is pursuant to the Standing Order 51A subsection 5. And these CSs will be appearing before the Senate to answer to questions from senators. These three cabinet secretaries include the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, Professor Kithure Kindiki, the Cabinet Secretary for Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development, Zakaria Njeru, and the Cabinet Secretary for Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs, Salim Mvuria, will be making their maiden appearance this morning before the Senate chambers. And this is according to pursuant, or rather this is pursuant to Standing Order 51A subsection 5. Member for Samburu County, or the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, will be responding to questions by the Senator for Samburu County, Honorable Dr. Lelegwe Tumbesi, on the state, or rather to respond to what is the state of the security in Samburu West constituency currently, in light of the deployment of the Kenya Defence Forces to support the ongoing security operation. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration will also be responding to a question by the member for Samburu County, Senator Dr. Lelegwe Tumbesi, on what measures the government has taken or is taking to enhance security in Samburu County, as well as whether the Cabinet Secretary could indicate the plans